What's up, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Goal Line Dynasty. Today, Tyler and I are going to be looking at the first 10 rounds of a startup draft, picking out the best value in each round that we can find. But before we get into the video, Tyler, how we doing, buddy?
I'm good, buddy. It's good to see you. Good to hang out with you on a fine Saturday. I'm excited for this video to come out. I'm hoping it's helping anybody who's in startup mode at any point, but or maybe just trying to compare players and who you might want to take one for one in certain deals if you can get.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the one thing about going into a startup draft, right, is you always want to stay fluid. You want to be constantly trading. If you leave the startup draft without making at least 2 or 3 trades, you didn't do your job. You know, that the startup is one of the most fun times to make those trades. And I think being able to identify good value, maybe a little bit later on in any given round, is going to be how you're going to come out on top in these trades. So, Tyler, let's get right on into it. Let's take a look at the first round here. I get the feeling that we're going to agree, right? We're both going to give our take on who we think the best value is on each list of 12. And for me, it's Trevor Lawrence at number 10 in a Superflex. He should not be going number 10, right? Like, he should be in the firm, maybe even number 5 or number 6 overall contention, in my opinion. The fact that you could trade all the way back to pick 10 or 11 and still land Trevor Lawrence in a Superflex startup, I mean, that's just outrageous to me. Had a stellar year last year. Coaching staff revamp. Calvin Ridley is now a Jaguar. They brought in an extra running back. I mean, this entire team is just trending fully upward. Trevor Lawrence is a full send when it comes to Dynasty. Like, I know you're not going to disagree with me. So Trevor Lawrence, right? That's got to be the pick in the first round for the best value.
100%. Yeah, like you said, I'm taking him at the 105, 106 over both the receivers, Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. I'd rather have Trevor Lawrence be my cornerstone wide receiver 1 or quarterback 1 rather. I'm taking T-Law over a lot of Russian quarterbacks like that are on this list. Is even like it might be close after this year. I think it might be close with his upgrade to Calvin Ridley, adding to that offense. And he might be close between him and like Jalen Hurts at some point. So I'm with T-Law being the best value at the 110, being the end of the round.
Yeah, completely agree. You know, he's not going to go ahead of Mahomes, Allen, Joe Burrow, but he deserves to be in the conversation, maybe as the 4th overall player. I mean, I'm probably still taking Jalen Hurts, but to your point, it is really close. So, you know, Trevor Lawrence, I knew we were going to agree on that one. Didn't even think we were going to have to spend a lot of time on that. But, Tyler, the second guys, number 13 through 24. By the way, we're using the sleeper ADP for those of you watching at home. Who is your best value looking at the second round in Superflex startups right now?
I think it's got to be Kyler Murray, just knowing that, like, I mean, he's been drafted as a top 5 quarterback in the past, year or two. The fact that he's fallen to the end of the second round is kind of wild. If that's his ADP, I would buy it every single time. I think in sharp drafts, it might not be this late, but I mean, it's so easy to make up for it. If you end up drafting one of the like Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carrs, in the late rounds of the draft, that you can just make up for those couple games and hope for the production. And if you have a Josh Allen and Kyler Murray quarterback room, or a Pat Mahomes Kyler Murray quarterback room, you're in a pretty really like good shape. So I'm gonna go with Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I like that pick. I'm not a massive Kyler Murray fan, and I have been fading him. But until now, his cost was entirely too high. He was still going maybe 202, 203. I think getting him at the 210, number 22 overall in a Superflex startup is very generous, right? So I would have to agree with you. I would take him as the best value in the second round. He's got the rushing upside. He's got the job security. Apparently DeAndre Hopkins is going to be staying in Arizona. Arizona is likely going to have an early pick in 2024 to kind of bolster that offense for him. And the only reason why they're going to have an early pick is because we know Kyler Murray is likely not going to start the 2023 season healthy for Arizona. So I think the reason why he's being faded is because he's a wait and see pick, because you're not going to be able to, put him in your lineup in week 1 of the 2023 season. But like, who cares? When he's fully healthy, he's been a top 10 quarterback each year. Actually, his first 2 years, he was, I think, top 6, top 7 at worst when he did play a full 16 games there. So completely agree with you on this one. We're going to have to start disagreeing and picking different players, eventually. But through 2 rounds, getting your quarterbacks, early on in Superflex is a must. And if you can start off Trevor Lawrence 110, Kyler Murray 210, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, even I would probably take Kyler like as high as 205, 206. Even maybe even earlier than that. I mean, I might take him over, I'm probably equaling him to AJ Brown, who's a lot higher than that. So yeah, I'm all with it.
Yeah, I like that call. So round 3, finally going to get away from quarterback because there was only one quarterback in this ADP, CJ Stroud. I think it's a pretty fair, assumption to take CJ Stroud kind of in the mid-third there. My best value in here is actually going to be Jahmyr Gibbs, a guy that, I've been high on the last year or so. I didn't think I was going to be this high on him, but goes 12 overall to Detroit. Detroit then trades DeAndre Swift the very next day. Lot to love there. I mean, dude, we've talked about Gibbs on this channel for the last couple of weeks, saying that he is instantly a top 5 dynasty running back, might even be top 4 depending on who you ask. And he is going well after Breece Hall. He's going well after Jonathan Taylor, well after Bijan Robinson, well after Christian McCaffrey. I mean, I think the ADP is going to continue to trend upwards. But for now, if you can get Gibbs number 32 overall, get him as your RB1, you got a nice 22-year-old running back to start your dynasty team with. Ain't nothing wrong with that at all. So give me Gibbs as the best value in round 3.
I'm going to disagree with you here. As much as I love Gibbs, I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson over him. Just I think Garrett Wilson can easily explode and be a, freaking 300-point receiver if he explodes with Aaron Rodgers the way I think he will, and grow with him over the next 2 years, hopefully. So I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson because he is just dominant.
I don't disagree with you. I actually did consider taking Garrett Wilson instead of Jahmyr Gibbs as a good value, but I think Garrett Wilson should be an early 3rd-round pick, maybe sneak into the late 2nd round, depending on, what the kind of roster makeup you're going for. But to your point, I mean, the Jets had really no good quarterback play over the last few years, right? But especially in 2022, Garrett Wilson as a rookie comes in and puts up 1,100 yards on 147 targets. You got to figure with them trading away Elijah Moore and bringing Aaron Rodgers in, the sky is going to be the limit with Garrett Wilson. He could put up a very similar stat line to something that you'd expect from CeeDee Lamb, right? And CeeDee Lamb's going at the end of the 1st round. You're getting Garrett Wilson a round and a half later. That's still pretty good. So even though we have 2 different players here, I don't disagree with that call at all. I think Garrett Wilson's a tremendous value in the beginning of that 3rd round.
Yeah, I like the upside that he brings, and I like the fact that he's so young and is only going to get better. I think it's just a no-brainer in the early 3rd. I was actually shooting for him at the end of the 2nd in a recent startup, but he went in the mid-2nd, actually went to 206. So went earlier than this ADP says, but I didn't disagree with him.
You win some and you lose some, right? You can't always get your guys in these startups. And, if there is ever a guy that you want to get like Garrett Wilson, I don't think you can wait until the early 3rd. To your point, you were going to take him at the end of the 2nd. And if you want to make sure you get Garrett Wilson, you probably are going to have to take him in the 2nd because someone's going to reach on him, especially with Rodgers coming to town, right? But moving on, round 4, players 37 through 48 here. Tyler, who is the best value in this list? I get a sneaking suspicion we're going to have different guys to go over here.
It's really difficult for me to pick one because I think it's kind of a flat range. I'm happy with a lot of these guys between Chris Olave, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Devonta Smith, Drake London, and TJ Hawkinson, really. Tua too. There's five really good values here. Even Javonte, Najee too. There's I love this entire list in this round. I probably should have traded back into here and gotten multiple picks here. That would have been probably a good move for me. But if I had to pick one,
He's struggling over here. I mean, dude, like bringing up, like this is why we do videos like this and we do take the time to look at the different values because to your point, if you could have traded away your late second round pick and got back a fourth and a fifth round, for example, in this startup, looking at what's available right now, you'd probably be pretty stoked with that. Like right now, round 4, there's good value all the way down this list. I think there's only 1 or 2 names where I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fair. Maybe even a little early, but like most of this list is pretty good value in terms of where you're getting these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably would have had to give it a piece back if I was going to get a 4th and a 5th round, but yeah, it would have definitely done wonders for the team to grab 2 of those guys in that tier. If I had to pick one, I'm going to go with Drake London, just because he's the last one of those young receivers, really. That I mean, just because he's last on the list, he's the lowest ranked. So I'm going to say he's the best value. Really, I think he's the one who's got the same potential as any one of these receivers. And I mean, you could convince me Tua as well. I think it's a pretty decent value for Tua, who's in such an elite offense and can really win. If you have Tua as a QB2, I mean, you're pretty stoked about that. You can, pair him up with one of your elite quarterbacks, and you could end up with over 100 points just from your quarterback room.
Well, I would have disagreed if you picked Tua, and the only reason why I say that is because there's nothing against Tua. It's just I don't trust the health situation. I don't trust the Miami Dolphins to keep him safe. I don't trust that he's still going to be on my fantasy team, let alone a real life team this time in 2 or 3 years. So just health concerns when it comes to Tua. I'm staying away at cost personally. Drake London is a good call. I think it's a decent value there. Don't think I would take him much higher than 45 overall, but still pretty good. I don't think you're going to be surprised at who I say my value is because I've always been higher than the consensus on Mark Andrews. Getting Mark Andrews number 40 overall, midway through the 4th round here, I'm stoked. I'm really stoked because look at last year. Lamar Jackson didn't play half the season for Baltimore, and the half that he did play, he had maybe 2 good games, right? Mark Andrews still finished the number 4 overall PPR tight end last year. Year before that, he was number 1. Year before that, he was number 6. Year before that, he was number 5. I'm not worried about them bringing in Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is not taking red zone targets away from Mark Andrews. I'm not worried about Odell Beckham Jr. because he's going to fall apart by week 5 anyway, so who cares? Mark Andrews is going to have a nice bounce back year with Lamar Jackson freshly in off his new contract. And I'm buying Mark Andrews low everywhere that I can this offseason. So if he's there at 40 overall, chances are I'm pulling the trigger in my startup draft.
Yeah, I'm an idiot for even mentioning TJ Hawkinson without seeing Mark Andrews there. That's the effects of us going into this completely raw.
Well, I don't think you're an idiot at all because I actually did consider highlighting TJ Hawkinson instead of Mark Andrews at 47 overall. I think that is a tremendous value, but Hawkinson is going to lose some value since Minnesota went out and they grabbed Jordan Addison, right? Like you don't have Justin Jefferson paired with a 1st round wide receiver for TJ Hawkinson to get that same target share that he got over those last, 5 or 6 weeks in Minnesota. So still a great value. Like we said, great values all the way down here in round 4, but don't beat yourself up on that one, buddy. I think it's perfectly fine if you were going to highlight TJ Hawkinson there.
So now what are we looking at? 49 to 62?
49 to 60 here, right? So we are this is round 5 officially. And, I'm looking at this list. This I'm not nearly as pumped about as I was with round 4. Looking at this list, I don't see really any tremendous value on here. But if I had to pick one to be my biggest value, it's going to be that guy that I just brought up in Jordan Addison for Minnesota, right? Like, I would take Jordan Addison in a 1-for-1 deal over Ramondre. I would take him over DeAndre Swift. I would take him over any of the running backs on this list. And I would take him over any receiver on this list. So yeah, I would take Jordan Addison at the top of round 5. The fact that I can get him at the end of round 5, I'll eat that up all day. Think he's going to be a stud. I don't think he's not going to have, insane. He's not going to have this insane ceiling where we're ever comparing him to a Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase or maybe even CeeDee Lamb. But Jordan Addison has the makes to be a yearly top 15 wide receiver. Getting that at the end of round 5, I'd be more than stoked to grab him there.
Yeah, I mean, he could end up being Jalen Waddle and Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devonta Smith, and one of those guys. I actually just took him at the 601 in a pretty big money draft. It's a $150 league in a Superflex. I took him as my wide receiver 3, and I think his rookie season he's going to put up just as many points as JSN probably, because Justin Jefferson's going to open up that offense so much, and I think Kirk Cousins is better than Geno Smith. Consistently, I think he's more efficient than Geno Smith, but I think Seattle also might lean on that run game a little bit more than the Minnesota this year. I think that Minnesota wants to air the ball out. So I love Jordan Addison there. It's either going to be Jordan Addison or Michael Pittman for me.
Yeah, well, I like that you bring that up because Minnesota, they've basically already said they're going to be releasing Dalvin Cook after June 1st. And if they release Dalvin Cook, there's really no contingency plan, right? Best case scenario, they bring in Kareem Hunt, Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette. None of them is going to be a stud. Alexander Mattison, as much as we want to think he's going to be a stud when he gets the opportunity, they're not going to hand him the keys to the Minnesota backfield. It's just not going to happen. So this team, the Vikings, might have more passing attempts than anyone else in the league in 2023. So yeah, I'm stoked to get any part of that offense. But let's move on. Round 6 here. Tyler, looking at this list from Dameon Pierce down to Dallas Goedert, who's your favorite?
Daniel Jones, hands down. Give me a top 10 quarterback at pick number 70.
Whoa, hold on. Hold the phone. Top 10?
He was top 10 in fantasy points this year.
Well, that's
what
news
I'm.
to me.
That's obviously that's barring injury and all those things. Obviously, I don't consider him a top 10 dynasty quarterback. I think he's probably more around the 15 range. But give me the guy who has rushing upside and also is a starting quarterback. And I love plugging in at my quarterback too. I love drafting Daniel Jones this year.
Wow. You know what? It's weird, but I'm actually going to agree with you. Looking at this list, there's a couple names that I like. I like taking the flyer on Zay Flowers here. I love getting DJ Moore here, but I don't trust Justin Fields to be – sorry, Chicago fans, but I don't trust Justin Fields to be much of a passer upgrade as to what DJ Moore has had over the last several years of his career. So I, could kind of take him or leave him here at 67. Daniel Jones, right? Number 9 overall quarterback finish in 2022. The New York Giants are keeping Saquon Barkley. They've bolstered their offensive line a little bit. They've signed just about every receiver free agent in the National Football League, right? They went out, they drafted Jalen Hyatt. They're gonna have like a 20-person wide receiver competition in training camp this year, and that's fine. That's great for Daniel Jones. This is not a team that is going to go out and dominate on a weekly basis. So Daniel Jones is going to have his work cut out for him. He is going to have to air it out, and like you said, he's got that rushing upside that you love to see. So I'm surprised that I'm choosing him as my value here in round 6, but buddy, I got to agree with you.
Yeah, if I had to pick one of the receivers, I would either go Jerry Jeudy or Treylon, just because I think Jerry Jeudy is the best receiver in that Denver offense that looked like it was starting to click last year. And I think Treylon Burks is better than where he's being drafted right now as well. But I think in terms of best value, who do I want to draft out of my team? Give me Daniel Jones, because I'm going to be able to trade him for any one of these receivers, most likely, to somebody who didn't draft a quarterback too, and is like, oh goodness, like I really need one. They're gonna probably give you a significant piece to get Daniel Jones back from you like 4 weeks into the season.
Yeah, and Treylon Burks has a sky high ceiling, right? Like people could compare him to AJ Brown. I don't know if he's going to have that kind of ceiling, but nobody would be surprised if he hit that kind of ceiling. So if you're swinging for the fences here, Treylon Burks is definitely not a bad pick. But moving on to round 7, I'm stuck. I'm stuck between 2 guys here. And I know you'll be able to guess one of them. One of them is Brandon Ayuk, because I love Brandon Ayuk. Top 15 PPR wide receiver last year. Over the second half of 2021, he was wide receiver 14 or wide receiver 15 as well, despite starting the year as like wide receiver 70-something. Brandon Ayuk's very good. he is the wide receiver one. I don't care what anybody says. He is a significantly better receiver than Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel's a great athlete. He's got, he's like one of those gadget players. You can line him up in the backfield. You can do a whole bunch of things, but better pure receiver, Brandon Ayuk, hands down, no questions asked from me. But I'm stuck between him and Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson put together a solid showing at the end of 2022. He had a one-and-done coach in Nathaniel Hackett, who was just arguably one of the worst coaches that we've ever had the displeasure of watching coach a football team in our lifetime, right? And now he gets to upgrade to Sean Payton. They bring in Marvin Mims. They're getting Tim Patrick back. Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton are going to be healthy. They have a trio of tight ends that they can choose from. Javonte Williams, when he gets healthy. I mean, this is a good offense. And getting Russell Wilson, I know he's on the older side, right? He's 34 years old. So you're getting, maybe 3 to 5 years at best out of Russell Wilson at this stage in his career. But there's a lot to like here. And Tyler, if you had to pick between Russell Wilson and Brandon Ayuk as your value, and you can tell me if it's not one of these two guys on your list, but if you're choosing one of these two guys midway through the 7th round, who's the better value?
Well, if I'm choosing between those two, I'd rather have Brandon Ayuk. I was between Brandon Ayuk and Pat Freiermuth, but I'm not going to really highlight much more of what you said on Brandon Ayuk. Like you said, top 15 finisher this year in fantasy, and obviously, I mean, we're not really diving in on a points per game basis, but I mean, he's the one who's scoring those fantasy points for your roster, and he's had really good games that can win you weeks if you're drafting him at pick 80. But I love Pat Freiermuth because he automatically adds at least 10 points to your lineup every single week, if not more. And I think that he has a higher ceiling than what he's shown. I mean, he's still really young. Only been in the league for 2 years, 24 years old. I think he's got a lot of time to get better, and I think I love what he's going to turn into. I think he's going to get his fair share in this offense. He got 98 targets last year, which was actually more than he saw the year before with Ben Roethlisberger. So I'm going to go with Pat Freiermuth here.
I don't mind Freiermuth, and the reason why is because there's no way Kenny Pickett can stay as bad as he was his rookie year. I mean, he looked better, as it went on. Kenny Pickett, we knew he was not a day one ready-made prospect. It's going to take him a little bit of time, but all across the board, he did not have many touchdowns. The Pittsburgh Steelers in general didn't have many passing touchdowns. Freiermuth, I view him kind of as this year's Cole Kmet, right? Like this time last year, everyone was like, oh, Cole Kmet had 100 targets last year and he had 0 touchdowns. How does this happen? Pat Freiermuth, kind of the same scenario, except he had 2 touchdowns instead of 0. But you got to think this touchdown total goes up, even if it only goes up to maybe 6, right? Rather than finishing as the number 8 overall tight end in 2022, he probably would have been number 4 and number 5. So I don't disagree with that at all. I think he is a good value here. I am a little concerned with them bringing in Darnell Washington because I think Darnell Washington is really good, but he's also more of a blocking tight end than anything. So I think Muth is going to be, for the most part, pretty safe to produce there.
Yeah, I mean, I like the positional, not advantage, but safety that he gives me at the tight end spot. He's kind of the tight end that I'm looking to draft in most spots.
That's fair. But moving on, round 8. We got DeAndre Hopkins at the top of the list. We got Devin Achane at the bottom. Who's your value here?
Maybe Miles Sanders. Either Miles Sanders, Jahan Dotson, probably. I think Miles Sanders is going to be getting the majority of the workload. This is where I'm looking to draft running backs. He's probably the one I want with the least amount of question marks and least competition and the easiest path to touches. So give me Miles Sanders.
These are the 2 guys I'm between as well, and I also think I would go with Miles Sanders, probably because the Carolina bias, right? Who cares? But, I mean, dude, he finished 15 overall in PPR last year, 1,269 yards on the ground, 11 touchdowns, only had 26 targets. And Carolina or Frank Reich and his coaching staff has already come out and said that there's no scenario where Miles Sanders gets fewer than 50 targets on the season, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that go up even more. They view Miles Sanders as a 3-down guy. They did not draft a running back for a reason. Chuba Hubbard is not a pass-catching specialist. Miles Sanders, if you remember, when he was coming in from Penn State, a lot of people were excited about the passing upside that he does provide. He had 63 targets as a rookie, and then Philly just kind of started phasing him out of that plan of their attack. And I think Carolina is going to bring it back. I think he's going to bring a lot to the table. And I mean, this might be an over prediction. Maybe this is a bold take to make, but we were banging the table for Josh Jacobs last year, right? He was going to come in, get this big workload. No one was going to contest him in Vegas, and he's going to do amazing things. I think Miles Sanders could be this year's Josh Jacobs. So I'm gladly taking him at the end of my 8th round here.
Yeah, this year's Josh Jacobs is either Najee or Miles Sanders. I think Najee's being drafted around the time where Josh Jacobs was last year. But where are we at now? Who are we looking between?
So now we're in round 9. We got Deontay Johnson at the top of the list. We got Mike Evans down at the bottom. So looking at this list, I think there's no screaming value. There is no screaming value in this round. But if I'm going to go with one, kind of surprising who I'm taking is Geno Smith. Seattle did not draft a quarterback. They had the opportunity to. They gave Geno Smith the contract. They just gave Geno Zach Charbonnet. They just gave Geno JSN, right? He's got a really good offense around him. Showed really a promising year in 2022, and he could improve on it. We always knew Geno Smith was talented. He just never really quite put it together in the NFL. You know what they say? Everybody can see the 8th year breakout coming, right? So I think getting Geno Smith potentially as your QB2, if you faded quarterback up until this point, I think you're really heavily rewarded in round 9 with Geno Smith.
Yeah, I love Geno Smith here, but I'm just going to talk about somebody different, just because I don't want to highlight the same guys. I'm going to go with Deontay Johnson. He is, he had the same problem Pat Freiermuth did. I'm not even a Pittsburgh fan or anything. I'm actually a Cowboys fan, so I have no love for the Steelers whatsoever. But I do think in terms of fantasy, he is a safe pick here to be a target hog, and I'll take whatever comes with that, whether it's no touchdowns or hopefully a decent amount of catches. I think Kenny Pickett can improve. So I think that offense can in general get better. So I'm probably valuing Deontay above most people, and I think you're a Deontay fan too.
I'm a massive Deontay Johnson fan. I think this is fantastic value to get him here. I mean, we've said it a few times over the last several months. If Deontay Johnson even had 6 touchdowns, right? And he had 147 targets. So getting 6 touchdowns from that is not a big ask. He would have been a top 20 wide receiver in PPR leagues. And there's no way Kenny Pickett doesn't improve this upcoming year. I think Deontay Johnson is in for a big bounce back year. He's had minimum 144 targets every single year for the last 3 years. It's not going to change, right? People are way too high on George Pickens, thinks that he's the wide receiver 1 in the offense. He's not. It's Deontay Johnson, and it's going to stay Deontay Johnson. So I really like that call there. If I was picking between 2 guys there, it was Geno and Deontay. So I do appreciate you highlighting him. But we're only going to do 10 rounds here. So this is going to be the last one we're going to highlight on this video. Maybe we'll scroll through a little bit here and give some sleepers in the next couple of rounds. But round, up through this point, these are your starters, right? These are the guys that you're looking to field on a weekly basis in your actual, dynasty matchup. So Tyler, we're looking at round 10. Up top, we got Jonathan Mingo. Down at the bottom, we got Hendon Hooker, right? Who's your value here? Because this is kind of a weird one. There's definitely some value to be had, but there's nothing super sexy on this list.
So I highlighted Garrett Wilson earlier on in this draft, but so I think Aaron Rodgers, if you don't have even a QB3 yet, I think he's a screaming value here. He lost Devontae Adams last year and threw less touchdowns, obviously through I think 10 plus less touchdowns. Yeah, it was 11 less touchdowns this year. If I had to pick a positional player, I'm probably going with Rashee Rice over Josh Downs, Monty, Cole Kmet, Rashad Bateman, Jonathan Mingo. I'm probably going Rashee Rice because he is a piece of the Kansas City offense, and I like that he has the potential to be great on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, I'm going to go a slightly different direction here. I'm going to go with Jonathan Mingo, actually. And the only reason why is because Jonathan Mingo right now in rookie drafts is going in the late first, even in Superflex. Josh Downs, he's falling to the late second. Rashee Rice, mid to late second. Marvin Mims, I've seen him fall to the early third. The fact that, there's an ADP discrepancy of 10 to 15 picks between Mingo and those other three guys. But in a startup draft, the discrepancy is maybe 5 picks, and there's a hell of a lot more players to choose from, right? Rather than just the rookies. I think that in itself provides enough value. I think Mingo is an absolute coin toss. And this is coming from a Panthers fan, right? Absolute coin toss. He's either going to boom or he's going to bust. But in round 10, I'm more than happy with taking a flyer like that because if you can hit a grand slam with your 10th round pick, you're going to be pretty damn pumped about it. So just for the sake of how everything is looking in the rookie drafts right now, right? I just think Jonathan Mingo is a tremendous value right here.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Jonathan Mingo, but I mean, I don't know. I don't really trust him to have a whole lot of value or production this year over Rashee Rice. I think he's the one who's more likely to step in and see points this year, just being a part of that explosive offense with Pat Mahomes.
Yeah. So we'll see. But again, if we're choosing guys in round 10 at this point, right? I'm not gonna argue with you over Rashee Rice versus Jonathan Mingo, who's the better value. It's round 10, right? It's round 10. Now, this is the point of the draft, right? I would say rounds 10 through 15. This is kind of where you can really make a difference. If you look at most startup drafts and even if you look at one of your own startup drafts, right, from 2 or 3 years ago, look at the draft results and look at the guys that you took between 10 and 15. Chances are none of them are on your roster anymore, right? These guys, they're kind of expendable. You don't know how long you're going to be able to use them for, anything like that. So Tyler, I know we said we were only going to do 10 rounds here, but I want to look at, rounds 11 and 12 really quick. And I just want to pick one more value from each of these. So I'm looking at round 11 right now. We got David Njoku through Juju Smith-Schuster, and not a ton to love on this draft board, in my opinion, but Jordan Love is there. And Jordan Love has just been given the keys to a very successful NFL franchise. They're rebuilding it around him, and they seem to be pretty committed to it. He is only, how old is he? He's 24 years old. I think this is a pretty good spot. Now, I don't have the cojones to have Jordan Love be my QB2 in a startup right now, but if you've punted the QB position, plenty of worse situations that you could find yourself in.
Yeah, you have a starter this year. I would love him as my QB3 or 4 rather than QB2, obviously. But I mean, if you're drafting your QB2 at 127, then you must have other plans, I guess, or something along those lines. But I do love Jordan Love. I do love James Conner here. And I think I love Evan Ingram as well. I think T-Law and this offense is about to take a significant leap in his 3rd year and his 2nd year with a real decent coaching staff in Jacksonville. So I'll take that piece of that offense as well. But I definitely love I'm going to take Jordan Love over Evan Ingram any day of the week or over James Conner, most likely. So
yeah. No, I like to call on Ingram. It was an obvious spot for a rebound in 2022 when he came to Jacksonville, and he's going to continue on with that. He's playing on the franchise tag this year, and he's got a lot to prove. So I think he'll be a pretty good commodity there. So now I mean it. Last round that we're going to go over here. I said only 10, but we're doing 12 just because, why not? Right? Let's add an extra 5-10 minutes to the video just to give people some extra value here. So 133 through 144, we got Roschon Johnson at the top of the list, Jalen Hyatt at the bottom. Actually, some decent value in round 12, I think. So Tyler, who are you going with here?
Probably Elijah Moore. He got really significant investment from Cleveland. They sent away I think it was an early 2nd, right, to go get Elijah Moore. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but I'm not sure where the pick was, but I think it was round pick.
It was definitely, I don't remember if it was a second or a third, but it was a day 2 pick for sure. So, it is good capital.
So I'm going to take Elijah Moore just because I know that he's done good things with a half decent quarterback play and in an organization in front office that enjoyed his presence. So I think he's in a situation where he's going to see an uptick from his 65 targets that he saw last year. And I think that Deshaun Watson is going to be a rebound quarterback, and I think it's going to be a rebound offense in Cleveland. I think giving him the full offseason and a full training camp with no allegations and no legal things badgering him, not defending the guy obviously, but just saying that could lead to better performance in the workplace on the football field. So I'll take an Elijah Moore piece here.
See, Elijah Moore would be my pick as well, but I'll highlight someone else just for the sake of being a little bit different. Roschon Johnson's going to be my pick here. Chicago backfield's wide open. Khalil Herbert is not as good as everyone thinks he is. I don't know what the obsession is with Khalil Herbert. He is, he's efficient, but he's not anything special. I don't know why everyone is gushing over Khalil Herbert. And then D'Onta Foreman. D'Onta Foreman's a ton of fun to watch. He is a total bruiser. Doesn't catch the ball too much, and it's probably going to be their goal line guy. But like I said, this backfield is wide open. This time in the year, Roschon Johnson is probably going to be the de facto guy there. He's going to have to really fight and earn a spot in 2023 to see any sort of significant field time. But he is a really good running back. There's a lot to like about his game. He is athletic as all hell. He got to play behind Bijan Robinson for 3 years in college, and that's a pretty damn good guy to learn from. So if he can take any of Bijan's knowledge into Chicago with him, I think it's going to be a really good situation. He was the first overall pick of the 4th round, so he does have day 3 draft capital, but he was 1 pick away from being day 2, and he did find himself in a pretty good situation. So I think Roschon at this point is a pretty good flyer to take. I'm not trusting him as my RB2. I know some people might only have 2 or 3 running backs as they enter round 12. I would be a hell of a lot more comfortable with him as RB4, but there's worse things than having Roschon as your RB3 because I do think he is going to have a pretty nice career in the NFL. So he's my pick here.
Yeah, I like Roschon. I like what he showed in college. He was fun to watch when he was on the field. I liked watching what he did after the season when he completed it. I liked watching back what he got to show off, and he had a decent combine as well. So I'll take Roschon Johnson as well here.
Yeah, so a lot to like about these guys that we went over today. Obviously we kind of breezed over. There was 144 different players that we could have chosen from over these first 12 rounds and just kind of breezed through it and really only highlighted 1 or 2 guys in each round. But that's the point. We want to take a look at the best possible value that you can find in any given round in your Superflex startups. Obviously, there's a ton of value to be had through 12 rounds, but some guys more so than others. And we're actually going to do another video highlighting the exact same list, but we're going to be talking about our least favorite value in each round. So stay tuned for that. That is going to be our next video. But before we wrap up here, quick shout out to all of you guys. Thank you again, sincerely for liking, commenting, subscribing. Hopefully you find some value in this video. And if you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, or comment. We love hearing from you guys. But before we sign off for the day, Tyler, any closing remarks for the viewers?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe, and tell us where you agree and disagree. That's the fun part.
Absolutely. So for myself, for Tyler, for Goal Line Dynasty, we will see you next time.